No, it's hard to believe, but was Kathleen Kennedy right all this time? The Force is female, one of the most cringe-inducing statements that has ever been uttered when referencing Star Wars. A statement that divided a fan base and threw Star Wars into the front lines of the ideology culture war, a position that Star Wars never had. And while it's clear that Kathleen Kennedy was wrong for promoting this painfully and obviously sexist rhetoric, what if I told you she was right in a pseudo-roundabout way? Now, for many, that's not even possible. Kathleen Kennedy was not right about anything regarding current or modern Star Wars, and admittedly, I am being a bit facetious here. However, I recently bought the Star Wars Archives 1999 through 2005. It's an amazing book with tons of behind-the-scenes facts and stories from the prequel trilogy and how they were making them. And in it, George Lucas explains the general outline of his sequel trilogy. Now I'm going to skip ahead and read the main part because there's a lot here just to keep the video short. And then we'll discuss what I mean that Kathleen Kennedy might have been right. Alright, so once again, this is the Star Wars Archive book, and for those that may want to grab this book, this is the smaller edition of the two, and this is page 502. The movies are about Leia. I mean, who else is going to be the leader? Is trying to build the Republic. They still have the apparatus of the Republic, but they have to get it under control from the gangsters. That was the main story. It starts out a few years after Return of the Jedi, and we establish pretty quickly that there's this underworld. There are these offshoot stormtroopers who started their own planets, and that Luke is trying to restart the Jedi. He puts the word out, so out of 100,000 Jedi, maybe 50 or 100 are left. The Jedi have to grow again from scratch, so Luke has to find 2- and 3-year-olds and train them. It will be 20 years before you have a new generation of Jedi. By the end of the trilogy, Luke would have rebuilt much of the Jedi, and we would have the renewal of the New Republic with Leia, Senator Organa, becoming the Supreme Chancellor in charge of everything. So she ended up being the chosen one. Now I skipped ahead, but just to give added context, George Lucas wanted Darth Maul as the main villain, with gangsters like the Hutts running the galaxy, while ex-stormtroopers are still loyal to the Empire and making a rebellion of their own. So let's just take a moment to imagine how much better that would have been instead of the crap fest that was the Rey Palpatine trilogy. Now back to the topic at hand. George Lucas, whether this was going to stay this way or not, said Leia was the chosen one. For someone who was so desperately wanted to show women as the main characters, show women in this powerful and competent light, for someone who wanted the young girls to be inspired, why in the hell would you not listen to George and follow his outline? Now one can argue that Rey was a decent role model for girls. I'd argue she was just cosplay bait, as that's all she inspired. But clearly George had a vision for Leia being the chosen one. This is what they tried to do with Rey, but it fell flat as Rey was 1, a nobody, and 2, she was a Mary Sue. Rey never lost, didn't lose no limbs, or even get cut by a lightsaber. Compare that to Leia, who's been shot, tortured, captured, and had losses and challenges, and was actually a child of the chosen one. You'd think with everything lined up like T-ball, it would have been easy to deliver a better received sequel trilogy. It gives you your strong, empowered Forces female lead, while still giving fans what they want in Luke and the rest. And that's not to say fans wouldn't have loved Leia being the Supreme Chancellor, but what they didn't love is Leia flying through space just to prove how down she is with the Force. The only somewhat problem to George's idea is the age issue, as this movie took place not long after Return of the Jedi, and all the actors were old at this point. Personally, I'm okay with getting new actors. I'm not big on the whole de-aging or some of the uses of AI for the likes of voices of the dead people instead. That's just a little off-putting to me. But if back when they were making The Force Awakens and they had hired Daisy Ridley to be Leia, I'd have been down. Granted, I'd say she'd make a better Jaina Solo, Leia's daughter from the Legends universe, but that's another video. In the end, if Kathleen stuck to the script, we all could have got a better Star Wars sequel trilogy than we did. It would have appeased the feminists that thought that stuff was a big deal, while simultaneously making all Star Wars fans happy by giving us what we want, a cool story. Assuming she didn't shit on Luke some more, that is, because as we know, for some reason, Hollywood doesn't know how to uplift both genders at the same time. But what do you think? Do you like George's idea for Luke and Leia? Do you like Rey Palpatine's trilogy? Or maybe you wanted some Star Wars Legends lore for the sequels? Let me know in the comments, but on your way out, do us a solid, hit the like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next video. But you know what it is, Jabber Jaws, Vulgar Desperado. Peace.